Thank you. I just need to verify something. Yes, it's Louella. Did I hear correctly? Hedda Hopper is dead? Well, you should only speak good of the dead. So she's dead, and that's good. Now, if I hated Hedda as much as I am supposed to, I would have had to devote my entire time to it, and I have a living to make. She is not, as one person recently commented, the rival of my life, because she's not been in this business that long. I worked for years and years as a movie gossip columnist while she had bit parts in the movies and sold real estate. She tried to do in 2 years what I had been doing for 30. But actually, my career spanned more than 50 years. I invented the movie gossip column business. 50 years in Hollywood. I have seen so many changes. And if I say so myself, I have predicted many of those changes. Oh, I wasn't always right. I did say that talkies would never replace silent films. And I did say that Ronald Reagan had no future in politics. But I was right about the impact that television had on the movies. I am far too busy in my work to worry about any form of literary style. Let the participles dangle where they may, along with the mixed metaphors and split infinitives. Say what you will about my writing, pro or con, and a lot has been said con, but question my ability as a newswoman, and them's fightin' words. I am a good newspaper reporter. I have covered everything from movies to murders to boxing matches. If I do have any kind of style, I suppose it's chatting over the back fence. Well, once the reader accepts you as one of us girls, how far your career can take you just depends on a lot of luck. And there has been plenty of that Parsons luck in my career. There's also been plenty of hard work. I work all the time. I have written my column on trains, on planes, in dressing rooms, in the bathroom at Ciro's. Once I telephoned it in from the men's room at a gas station. It was the only available telephone. My day has no beginning and end. I was having dinner at Constance Bennett's house when I learned that Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor had eloped. I sat down between the fish and entree course and wrote my column. I had to. I was the first to know. The first to know are the most beautiful words in the dictionary to me. That I even own a dictionary may come as a surprise to some of you. Oh, I have been accused of misspelling and malapropping my way through millions of words about Hollywood. You know what a malaprop is. When you use a word that sounds like the word you intend to use, but the word you use has an entirely different meaning. Well, for example, I might say I exploded an affair when I meant to say I exposed it. But you get my point, don't you? Or if a city is flooded, I might say it needs to be evaporated when I mean to say evacuated. You're getting these, aren't you? Actually, both words are right in that situation. But for 50 years, it doesn't matter, because I was the first to know it and the first to tell it if it needs to be told. And if anyone wants to challenge that statement, I'll choose the weapons, telephones and typewriters at 40 paces. Ask Bob Hope. He knows. Oh, when the war started and Bob went overseas, he had to fill out a form saying who should be notified in case of emergency. Bob said, well, Louella would never forgive me if she wasn't the first to know. He wrote down my name. The other time I got the particles, or is that particulars? Oh well, that Teresa Wright was going to have a baby. I called her to congratulate her, and she denied it. We argued for a moment, and her other telephone rang, and I held on. And when she came back, she was laughing uproariously. I'll never doubt you again, Louella. That was my doctor calling. He said I'm going to have a baby. Now, my office is in my home here in Beverly Hills. Sooner or later, anybody who is anybody, or anybody who wants to be anybody, walks through those doors. Except Greta Garbo. Well, I respect her right to be alone as long as I can reach her by telephone. And people say they cannot see me for the mountain of paper upon my desk, but really it's the 3 telephones that take up all the space. And the telephones ring constantly, from personal friends to avoided enemies. Or is it avowed enemies? Well, really, you would want to avoid your avowed enemies. What to do with the tip once I get the phone call is my next problem. I'll get a phone call from a star, and they'll tell me a bit of news about a divorce or a marriage or a blessed event, and then they ask me to keep it a secret for a while. Then I hear it from another source, and I realize if I don't go to print, I am going to lose my exclusive. Being a friend and a reporter at the same time is no joke, and I have to balance it very carefully. I guess I do all right, for I get calls all the time from studios and stars, friends and strangers. One time I got a telephone call from a police officer. He had just stopped Rosalind Russell for speeding, but when he found out she was on her way to get married, he let her go without a ticket so he could call me and give me the scoop. And I do love a scoop. I'm not going to pretend I wouldn't fight for one. Well, I've had to fight all my life. Not just for my career, but to survive. I was married young. I was only 18 years old on October 31st, 1905, Halloween. A lot of scary things happened on Halloween, including my wedding to my marriage to the handsome John Parsons. By December, I was pregnant and he had lost interest, and when my baby Harriet was born, he abandoned us completely. I love my daughter Harriet. She was then, and is to this day, a source of never-ending joy. And I was determined I would take care of that baby. Now, I am a small-town girl at heart from Dixon, Illinois, but I had family in Chicago, and I decided there would be opportunity there. So off we went to Chicago. And I did get a job right away in an office, but in the back of my mind, I wanted to work in the brand new movie industry. I had seen the great flicker film, The Great Train Robbery. I was enchanted. There were 2 important studios in Chicago in those days, S&A and Selig. And so I began writing scripts and submerging them. Oh well. But back then it was as hard to get a meeting with the head men as it is today. Leave it to the Parsons' luck. I used to try my stories out on my young cousin Margaret and her best friend Ruth. There was one story Ruth really liked, and she told her mother, who in turn told her friend, who just happened to be Mrs. George Spohr. Oh, George Spohr, he owned the S&A studio in Chicago. Mrs. Spohr talked her husband into giving me an interview, and he bought my story for $25. Later, it went to the screen starring the hottest romantic idol of the day, Francis X. Bushman. Can you imagine MGM paying $25 for a script for Clark Gable? Or 20th Century Fox paying such an amount for Tyrone Power? Well, this was early days in the movies. And my luck held out. I was put on salary as a script writer. In those days, we called it scenario writing. I was paid $25 a week, and I would write the scenarios as well as read those that were sent in. They were sent in all forms, on pencil tablets, backs of used envelopes, pieces of wallpaper torn off the wall. And $25 was considered a good amount for a script. Now, today, directors in Hollywood are treated like royalty. But back then, there was no coddling. I had a row of boxes on my desk, each with the director's name, and I distributed the scripts indiscriminately, indelicately down the line. Okay. Well, they had to make them whether they liked them or not. Those were fabulous days.